The conversation about Moses Itama, one of the fastest rising young heavyweights in boxing, has taken over much of the fight world. Throughout different interviews and discussions, several major voices from boxing and combat sports have weighed in on his potential, comparing him to legends, while also pointing out what makes him unique. The remarks range from praise by icons like Mike Tyson to the perspective of combat sports journalist Ariel Helwani, to reactions from boxing analysts, trainers, and promoters who see something unprecedented in the young fighter. Mike Tyson himself, a man whose name defines heavyweight greatness, was asked about Itama and whether he thought the comparisons to himself were fair. Tyson responded by acknowledging that Itama could also become a legend if he continues fighting the way he has been. Tyson explained that what makes him believe in Itama's potential is the combination of his physical size and extraordinary movement. For Tyson, it is rare to see someone as big as Itama, standing around 6'5" and weighing 250 pounds at just 20 years old, move with such speed and agility. Tyson highlighted that this level of athleticism at that size is something boxing has not often witnessed. To him, Itama represents the kind of rare talent that comes along once in a generation. Tyson further emphasized that true greatness in boxing is not just about physical ability, but about hunger, discipline, consistency, and how a fighter learns from losses. Unlike many modern fighters, Tyson sees in Itama a raw determination and focus that reminds him of what defines champions. He explained that in today's boxing culture, losses are magnified in ways they never were before, but a real fighter proves himself not only in victory, but also in how he responds to defeat. Tyson shared stories from his own career to drive the point home, noting that even when a fighter loses, the manner of that loss can actually elevate their reputation. A courageous, competitive loss can increase respect, while a humiliating one can do the opposite. He recalled how the sting of his last professional loss motivated him to never want to feel that way again, a lesson that he believes young fighters like Itama must carry with them. According to Tyson, too many modern boxing fans don't understand this side of the sport. They see losses only in black and white, ignoring the deeper truths of how fights shape careers. Tyson's words carried additional emotional weight when he shared that Itama had said in an interview that Tyson gave him a reason to stay alive, offering him motivation and hope, which nearly brought Tyson to tears. Ariel Helwani, one of the most respected journalists in combat sports, added to the discussion by highlighting just how impressive Itama's achievements are at such a young age. Helwani explained that Itama is already recognized as one of the most promising heavyweight prospects in the world, and that the buzz around him isn't based on hype, but on actual progress. Helwani went as far as to suggest that Itama could realistically break Tyson's record as the youngest heavyweight champion, a record that has stood for decades. For Helwani, this possibility reflects just how seriously the boxing world is treating Itama's talent. He argued that when veterans and analysts alike recognize a young fighter's trajectory, it proves that the rise is genuine. The conversations also turned to Itama's personal journey. In one interview, Itama was asked when he realized that he had a special gift and that boxing could truly become a career. He explained that his breakthrough moment came after sparring with Lawrence Oakley, a world champion cruiserweight. His trainer messaged him afterwards, telling him that what he had done was unbelievable and that if he stuck with boxing, he could become one of the greatest heavyweights ever. Even at that time, despite being a two-time European gold medalist and two-time national champion, Itama admitted he hadn't fully realized his potential until that sparring session showed him what he was capable of. Analysts observing Itama's fights have repeatedly pointed out the same thing. His movement is unlike anything typically seen in heavyweights. He glides around the ring, cutting angles and evading punches like a much smaller fighter, while still carrying the power of a heavyweight. At only 20 years old, he shows footwork and reflexes more common in light heavyweight divisions, something that excites experts because it suggests he isn't just a heavy hitter, but a complete fighter. Promoters and analysts often compare his athleticism against other great heavyweights of the modern era. They point out that Lennox Lewis, as great as he was, didn't move with that kind of explosiveness. Anthony Joshua, despite his athletic build, never displayed that same agility. Even Tyson Fury, celebrated as a mover for his size, doesn't possess that level of speed. For them, Itama represents something that boxing has not seen in decades. One of the strongest comparisons made came from the boxing analyst and YouTube personality Showbiz the Adult, who drew parallels between Itama's fight against Dillian Whyte and Mike Tyson's legendary victory over Michael Spinks. Before Tyson fought Spinks, many critics said he had never faced an opponent of that caliber and doubted he could handle it. Tyson silenced them in under 2 minutes. Similarly, before Itama faced Whyte, people questioned whether the 20-year-old was ready for such a test. The result was nearly identical, as Itama dismantled Whyte with devastating speed and composure, leaving no doubt about his legitimacy. For Showbiz and many others, this was Itama's Tyson-Spinks moment, a breakout performance that forces the world to take notice. Itama, however, has been careful with comparisons to Tyson. While he acknowledges the compliment, he stresses that he wants to build his own legacy. He has often said that Joshua, Fury, Usyk, and others have all forged their own paths, and he wants to do the same. He recognizes that the comparisons mostly come from his age, since Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion at 20 years and a few months, while Itama is currently 20 with the chance to surpass that mark. But he insists he does not want to live in Tyson's shadow, instead hoping to be remembered as Moses Itama. Boxing journalist Today Oladipo also weighed in, pointing out that not every fighter needs endless tests to prove their worth. Some fighters showed championship qualities early, and Itama's demolition of Whyte was exactly that kind of performance. According to Oladipo, instead of needing drawn-out wars to prove himself, Itama demonstrated with clarity, timing, and composure that he is already championship material. Oladipo argued that sometimes greatness is self-evident, and in Itama's case, it's clear he has shifted perceptions and converted skeptics into believers. Yet not everyone was completely sold. After the Whyte fight, some detractors tried to downplay Itama's win, suggesting Whyte might have been injured going into the fight. Analysts quickly pushed back against this narrative, saying Whyte looked healthy and composed during his walk to the ring. To them, these claims were just excuses made to discredit the young fighter's performance. But the conversation around possible injuries highlighted how quick critics are to diminish a rising star's victories. Still, analysts agreed that Itama's timing, power, and composure proved that the win was authentic, regardless of rumors. Dillian Whyte's former trainer, Mark Tibbs, also reacted to the fight. He admitted he was speechless after seeing Itama knock Whyte out in the first round. Tibbs explained that he had hoped the fight would go a few more rounds to test Itama, but he wasn't surprised by the result. He said Whyte had trained diligently and looked in good condition, but at his age, fighting at that level had become taxing. Tibbs gave full credit to Itama, praising his movement, shot selection, and ability to carry power while gliding around the ring. For Tibbs, this victory showed that Itama has already been emotionally tested and is ready for bigger challenges. Meanwhile, boxing figure Sam Jones offered a more cautious view. He argued that while the win was spectacular, it didn't really answer key questions about Itama's chin, stamina, or ability to handle pressure in longer fights. Because the contest ended so quickly, observers still don't know how Itama would perform in deeper rounds against someone who can withstand his early storm. Jones emphasized that although the win was impressive, one fight cannot prove everything about a fighter's greatness. These questions, he said, will have to be answered in the future as Itama continues to rise. Despite the critiques, few can deny that Itama has established himself as the man to watch in the heavyweight division. Promoters like Frank Warren have already begun mentioning his name alongside established contenders like Fabio Wardley and Fraser Clark. Analysts have described him as a heavyweight who moves like a light heavyweight, pointing out how his frame looks lighter than his actual weight, making his agility even more remarkable. Those who have seen him train regularly, like fellow boxer Lee Wood, confirm that Itama consistently shows this level of ability in the gym, which is why his performances in the ring come as no surprise to those close to him. In the end, the consensus is clear. While some observers want to temper the hype until more questions are answered, most voices in boxing, from Mike Tyson to Ariel Helwani, from Showbiz to Mark Tibbs, agree that Moses Itama represents something extraordinary. At only 20 years old, he has already shown the world a glimpse of what could be a historic career. The comparisons to Tyson, though heavy, are not made lightly. But Itama himself remains grounded, insisting that he wants to build his own name and not live off another man's legacy. The fight against Dillian Whyte may not have told the full story of who he is as a fighter, but it did send a clear message. Moses Itama is not just another prospect, he is a force destined to shape the future of heavyweight boxing.